Hi, friend. Ashley here. Welcome to the Unlock Your Dream podcast. I'm here to guide you along your journey to unlocking your dreams to achieve the best life that you can imagine possible. From my journey in medicine as a PA and then some in the corporate world, I always still desired a little bit more out of life. It wasn't until I met some people who had seen their dreams realized that it occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, mine could come true too. Come along with me as we get to know some of these friends of mine and hear their stories of unlocking their dreams. Hey, friend, welcome back to the Unlock Your Dream podcast. We get to have my first repeat. I'm so excited and grateful to have Chelsea Kuhn back with us and head back to episode 4 if you want to get to know a little bit more about her and her family and her background. But today's going to be a little different than our first episode. She has been doing such an incredible job on specifically her Instagram. So if you haven't followed her there, I highly recommend. But I feel like I've been stretched and learning so much lately just from watching her grow there. And part of that journey, she's been able to share her journey with psoriasis. And it's just been on my radar. I feel like in so many different aspects lately of just like your gut and different autoimmune things. And so when I saw her chat with that, I said, you have to come back on and share your story about how you've healed through that, because I feel like it's just everywhere right now in good health and people are just kind of resetting going into Q2 this year. So welcome back, Chelsea. I'm so excited to have you here. And I'll just let you kind of dive in a little bit with whatever you want to share with your story.
Well, thank you for having me back. I didn't know it was the first repeat, so this is such a big deal. And since we talked last time, I realized we had all of these other mutual connections. Oh, and we have our matching mugs today.
Always, I know.
Yeah, I failed last time. I brought my cat, same company, but the cat mug. So we got our Super Mom rifle paper mugs today. Um, Ashley, thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it. Respect your time and all that you've been doing. I've learned so much from each of the people that you have interviewed and shared so many of the episodes with other people that I knew would bless them. So I hope that this blesses somebody that's maybe going through the same journey that I have with psoriasis, or if somebody is going through any sort of gut issue, I can probably relate. I don't know how far back you want me to go. I'm sure we'll kind of dive into some of these things, but the reason we had this conversation was because I started talking about what I have been going through. And for a long time, I felt a lot of I don't know if shame is quite the right word, but there's probably some of that there. Fear, embarrassment, not it's not a very beautiful thing to go through by any means. So it's not something I want to publicly put out there. But I started realizing, and I was really praying about this, when I was starting to look for true healing from this issue, it was very hard to find what I was looking for. And so I thought, if I can tell my story, there's one more story of natural healing out there that maybe somebody will stumble across, because it took me years to find anybody I could really relate to. So just one more story. And I think with so many things, it's, just telling your story in an appropriate way and getting that out there. It's like one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. And everybody's gut health issues or psoriasis journey is going to look different than the next person. But we can learn things from all of these different experiences. And so when I first was diagnosed, I went to see 3 different dermatologists, top dermatologists in our area, and was told, we don't know what causes this. We don't know what to, really how to help you from here. We don't know what the root is, but we can give you A, B, or C to take or to put on topically. But over and over again, what I was hearing was that my condition was at such an extreme level. Whatever they put me on, my body would eventually adapt to and become immune to, and then I would have to get on something else. And it would deplete my immunity or bring it way down. And then I would just get on the next drug and the next drug and the next drug. And none of that ever sat well with me. I don't know, which I actually, looking back, I'm like, I considered it at times because it was so bad and so painful and so hard. I would have done anything just to feel like I could live normally or sleep through a night. And for whatever reason, I just knew in my heart of hearts that there's got to be a natural solution to all of this and to keep trying. So that started my journey to wanting to kind of defy the system in a way and say, I know that this can happen naturally. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And so I'm still walking this out, but it's been about, I was diagnosed 5.5 years ago now, I believe. And it's been 2 years of really hard work. And even that I could be doing a better job at, but I figured out a lot in the last 2 years and have seen, I would say, probably 60 to 70% of it cleared up now. And I've still got work to do because natural healing is going to take time too. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a mind game, and I'm here to talk about it.
I love it, girl. Yeah, I think so. For those of you that don't know, my background in medicine is I used to practice in rheumatology. So I've often been the person sitting across from Chelsea when I practiced 5 years ago, having that conversation from the other side, because I think a lot of times medically trained providers, we really aren't taught anything about the gut or natural healing. I love the things that you said, because I think there's so many people that can relate to the mental game of it, the shame of it, that it's not beautiful, and everything on Instagram right now is like post what looks good and filter it. And that's just not real life there. So I totally, absolutely relate to that from the other side. So I'm so grateful to hear your story, not only from a patient perspective, but from the medical community as we continue to learn more and hopefully help more people from a more holistic standpoint. Where did you start? I know you said you didn't really have anybody when you started looking for something. So where was kind of step one for you? You're like, I'm going to start to figure this out.
Instagram, because Google was very confusing. I started trying to do, your typical research, Google, Pinterest, looking for things. And then I started going to Instagram, and one day it just dawned on me that Instagram is actually a wonderful search engine in many cases. And it's a place where people can share their stories. And lo and behold, I started finding some great information. And then as soon as I started searching on Instagram, the algorithm knew I was looking for this, and it was feeding me more of what I was looking for. So we're also living in an era of Instagram where, yes, it's not real life, but there is a heavy emphasis on authenticity. So sharing your story is very normal. I'm one that believes in sharing your story with solutions and with joy and positivity, not being Pollyanna and fake about things, but also not spewing my drama and problems on the internet. So I was looking for people that had those solutions and had just sought them out naturally. So I started finding people that had similar experiences. I will tell you, to this day, I've only found maybe 2 people that have the level of psoriasis that I have experienced. And so I was very careful in what I was looking for, but I would see somebody talking about something and I would try that. I would see somebody else talking about something, I would try that. Not usually topical items, because I started quickly realizing that this was an internal issue and that topically I just needed to find something that could just ease the discomfort and the pain and irritation that comes along with it. And I did find 1 or 2 things that really helped with that. But doing that internal work was huge. And so, yeah, Instagram was my friend for a lot of that. And I found some amazing connections through that then taught me how to start analyzing my situation, ask better questions. Thankfully, I have a wonderful chiropractor, and I decided, I trust him, and he's walking in the same world that I appreciate and respect a lot. So I'm going to ask him I'm just going to open up. Nobody knows that I'm dealing with this. But I'm going to open up and tell him and see if he has a recommendation. And he did. And then that has sent me now on a journey with several different functional medicine doctors, another chiropractor, and doing some really great alternative type of testing that has helped me identify how my body functions, like how it truly functions and where it's off and how to improve that. But recognizing that sometimes to get to that next step, you've got to kind of unwind the first part of the onion to even move on and find out what's below that, So there's been a lot of that going on.
That's so good. Yeah, I agree. I heard that recently I know a lot of people that pop on here. There's a very entrepreneurial bent, and that just in the sense of Instagram being a search engine lately is something that you don't think about. But I was even just again from the entrepreneur side of things, learning how important hashtags are. So for those of you who are listening, maybe even just a normal guest, we normally have an entrepreneur kind of mindset here, but hashtags are huge. And that's a great place to, like you said, to connect with people. And then you can kind of filter through who kind of suits your mindset, who suits where you want to be. And you're doing such a great job, I think, Chelsea, of sharing your story, of being real, but also coming, like you said, from a positive, very solution minded place. And I love that you're incorporating chiropractor and functional medicine. I think it's so key. And the more that we're learning, just like you said, from a medical standpoint, I think a lot of places dermatologists do just want to throw a cream or a pill at it. And it truly is a full systemic disease where some people have joint involvement, some people have gut involvement, some people have their eyes involved. I mean, it's such a complete body system that I completely agree with, looking at the holistic picture. That is beautiful and gorgeous. What were some of the tests, if you don't mind sharing, that you had ordered if people were looking into functional medicine and maybe their, primary care dermatologists don't want to check blood work or don't really even know where to start after maybe a biopsy?
Absolutely. So I did have a biopsy originally. That was what led to the psoriasis diagnosis. So I'm not just guessing at that. I have an actual diagnosis. And because there are times too where it looks like other things, or it could look like allergies. It could look like eczema. So it is important, I think, to get that biopsy done and discover what you're actually dealing with from that side of things. But in my case, once I found some holistic doctors and the functional medicine doctor that I've been enjoying working with, we did do blood work, of course, but then we did the first thing we did was GI mapping. And that was really informative. That actually is what helped me identify a lot of the foods that my body was tolerating or not tolerating. So very different. Some people have suggested, get an allergy test. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I decided to go this route instead. And through that was able to get on a very specific diet, and for about 9 months eliminated a lot of different foods. It was really hard. I did lose a lot of weight during that time. I felt amazing. And I will tell you, for 9 months, I actually didn't see a difference. In fact, at one point I was like, I think it's getting worse. But after 9 months, because your body can take, and everybody is different, you might see a difference in a week if you were, on the same thing in a different person. But for me, after 9 months, my body had adjusted and filtered out a lot of bad toxins and different things that just took time. It took so long to work through. And so after that, I started to see some better results and was like, okay, I think we're in the next phase, but there's still stuff going on. So then it was recommended, now that we've figured all of this out and your body is so much healthier, you're processing toxins better, like you're not holding on to them in your liver. Then it was, let's try an HTMA test, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis. And I went through a practitioner friend of mine who, she herself is not currently practicing, but her team is, and she's out of the DC area. She was phenomenal. So we did the HTMA test and found out my metabolism, what vitamins and minerals and nutrients my body was hanging on to, or was processing or not processing. And it's very interesting because those are things you can't tell from a GI test. Those are things you cannot tell from blood work. They take hair follicles. So you have to actually cut your hair very close to the root in several places, not a lot, but enough. And then you send that in and they analyze your vitamins, minerals, your nutrients through your hair follicles, because your blood is always trying to balance itself out. And somebody listening is going to be like, I do these and you're not saying it right.
It's okay.
But in my understanding, your blood work is always kind of trying to balance itself out, whereas your hair follicles will show you what your system is actually releasing and not processing properly. So we found out that I had several different deficiencies that had gone undetected for a long time, but I was taking the supplements So then we were able to say, okay, you need these, but you need a different form of that supplement because it comes in different forms. Like we all know calcium, maybe we don't all know. I know now calcium comes in different forms from different places. There were specific types of iron that I really needed, B12 in a particular type of form and not taken at the same time as whatever. And so, and I know that might sound overwhelming, but actually we simplified it way down into the basics. And so that I would start just one thing at a time, adding it in. And earlier in the process, there was a time when we made a lot of changes really quickly, and I was taking so many vitamins. It was overwhelming and stressing me out to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, if I miss one, what's going to happen? And when that was going on, my body was, already stressed out. And one of my issues with my gut is cortisol overloads and stress and anxiety. From, if you go back and listen to the podcast we did before, you can hear about that. So my daughter's been through a lot of medical challenges, and as a mom, you take care of your kid and then you forget yourself. And then 5 years later, you wake up and go, oh my goodness, what did I just do to myself? I thought I was fine and I'm not. So a lot of mine was rooted in taking care of other people in my family and ignoring myself, but not even realizing it. So yeah, I recently was reminded, I think, Ashley, you probably know this story of, you throw a frog in a bucket of boiling water, it's going to jump right out. You throw a frog in a pot of tepid water, and it's just going to like swim around, and you crank it up a degree or two at a time, and it's just not going to notice that all of a sudden it's boiling and it's dead. That's kind of where I was at, was I was in this tepid water for 5 years, raising a child with medical complexities who thankfully is doing very well now, and swimming around in this like stress pool, thinking I'm managing everything fine, not realizing how bad it actually is until one day somebody turns it way up and I'm like, oh my goodness, what just happened? And it's what happened the last 5 years. And then I realized how bad it was when my body started freaking out and saying, we can't take this anymore. Because it really seemed like it came out of nowhere. And then my body was covered head to toe in psoriasis, like flaming red spots. There was one point where I don't know if there was a patch of clean skin on my legs or arms. And it was coming down onto my face. It was all over my abdomen. Like, it was really intense. And so if you look at me now, and if you go to my Instagram, there are some, there's a highlight, because I talk about a lot of things. This is one that's, I talk about on and off, and I try to update people on progress, but there's a highlight, and I do have photos there of my hands and my arms and legs, from the peak about 2 years ago to now. And it is incredible, the difference with just changes in nutrition, diet, and stress management. Sleep.
That's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say absolutely go check that out, y'all. It was just so eye-opening even for me. And I love so many things that you said there. First of all, that you gave yourself 9 months and you weren't really seeing any improvement with your new plan. And I think some people can just quit there and you want to give up and maybe throw in the towel, but just you kept going and you kept pursuing it, and then it got worse before it got better. And that is something I feel a lot of times people don't understand about, whether it's psoriasis, or I have some friends with Hashimoto's or rheumatoid arthritis. Usually it's some sort of genetic predisposition, but like Chelsea said, it can be any sort of stressor. It can be a virus. It can be, like she said, she was kind of living in this smoldering amount of stress, and it's truly the camel that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like, you just can't take it anymore, and your immune system just revs up. And so for her, it showed up in her skin, but it can be your gut, your eyes, your back, your joints. There's so many different places where it can show up as well. And so, like she said, just topicals aren't going to cut it in that space. And, the majority of your immune system actually does come from your gut. And I've heard it's like your fingerprint. It's completely different than everyone else's. So like Chelsea said, I'm so grateful for all the things that she's sharing, but you have to go get the answers for yourself. Like, it's going to be something, like you've said, that you have to put the work in if you want it bad enough. Because I have seen exactly what she said. You prescribe and you prescribe and you prescribe, and eventually your immune system's very smart and it's going to figure it out and usually make antibodies against your medication. And then where do you go? So I love that you're approaching it truly from getting to the root of the heart of the matter. It's incredible. Any supplements that you think people should look into that are like, like you said, I think first of all, the HTMA test is so cool. I've never heard about that ever in all my years of medicine. So I'm so grateful that you shared that. But like you said, iron might be something to look into. Calcium might be something to look into. But I also like what you said too about there's different forms. So it's not like you can just go down to the drugstore or, e-commerce.com and then order a big supplement bundle.
Absolutely.
So,
well, if you want to look into the HTMA test, I can send you the girl that my practitioner who's not currently practicing, but the woman who has mentored her and worked with her quite a bit. I can send you her Instagram. And she actually has connections to HTMA testing, GI mapping, and a few other things. And she's very credible. Her Instagram is very informative. She doesn't necessarily not that I remember like specifically talk a lot about psoriasis or anything like that, but it's a lot of gut issues, autoimmune issues, and all from a natural perspective. So she might be somebody that's helpful to look into, and you can see how she approaches those testing, because even though she might be at a distance for the majority of people listening, she may know a local connection if you want someone locally, or she does do them over Zoom or over just like emailing, because it's a test you can actually order. You do it yourself and you send it back in, and then you book appointments to have those read. So you don't have to be with someone to do those, which was really nice because I'm in Ohio, they're in Virginia, and it worked out great. I actually ended up doing it for Kinnen, my daughter, as well. And we were blown away with the results for her because she's been in and out of medical testing her whole life, 7 years. And we learned things through the HTMA test that we had never figured out before. And we had always been curious, well, why this or why that? And so it really helped us get her back on a better path. So I do recommend the HTMA testing or GI mapping for people that are looking into those things. I think they're really helpful. There's one thing topically that I have found to be really good. And again, this doesn't heal, although it does. I have seen a lot of people have some great healing testimonies from it, but that's tallow. Mm-hmm. And be smart where you buy your tallow. Your friend might make it and it might be fine, but tallow itself is sourced from animal fats. And I think it's important to know what that animal is consuming or what's been put into that animal's body, because that may not be refined through the process of turning tallow. So there are a couple companies I think do a great job. My friend Carly with Nourish You Naturally is a very thorough sourcer, and I've been using hers. I've tried a number and I've been very happy with hers. So that's the only thing topically that's really been a good answer for me. And it's what allowed me to start being able to just have enough ease to sleep. And if I wasn't sleeping, because I would be waking up all night long just itching and in pain. And if you're not sleeping, your body is really going to have a hard time ever healing itself. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother topic, because we have other sleep issues in our home just with medical stuff going on. But this was a big one for me. And then as far as supplements go, I would say get the testing done to find out exactly what it is that you need. Mm-hmm. But in almost every case that I'm aware of, probiotics have been a big player, and they've been very important for me. I've chosen to use the stress probiotic from Nutrilite because they're very well sourced, and I knew that stress was part of my issue, and they happen to have a probiotic that was meant to help with stress as well. So that's been really big for me. And then just making sure that you're drinking enough water and you're on a good multivitamin. I do think the Nutrilite products are really good, but I also think like if you're dealing with this sort of thing, you might need to figure out what your body specifically needs. I learned from my practitioner that just because we're all supposed to take a multivitamin, we need to be careful of what that is and where it's coming from. Because mm-hmm. What if you actually are eating foods that, like, let's say you work on an all organic grass-fed farm and you're getting all the best stuff, like the day that egg is laid, you're eating it. You may not need the same thing that I need. And you don't want to overdo certain vitamins and minerals in your system either, because that'll send you all out of whack. So I think sometimes we are very well-meaning and going like, well, we need this supplement or that supplement or that supplement. But so much of it depends on who you are and what your body tests as. I have changed my supplement game entirely since going through all of these things, and everything that I thought I was supposed to be taking, my body actually wasn't doing a very good job processing. So we've made a lot of changes, and shocker, doing well now.
It's so amazing. Yeah, it's so cool to hear your story from a place of victory. Like it's something that you can physically see, which I think is so cool, that you can see on your skin what your gut is doing to heal, which is so beautiful. Anything else about your story that you want to share or that we missed or you think would be helpful for anyone listening in?
Oh gosh, we could talk about this for a long time. If I could go back and tell myself 7 years ago when things kind of went down with my daughter, she was diagnosed with a rare genetic disease. She was very sick for a long time. We have to get up still to this day through the night to check on her. And every 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how she's doing that day, we need to check her glucose and make sure that she's not dropping into incredibly low hypoglycemic levels. So with all of that, I always thought I was a very strong person and it's okay. I will handle it. I will figure it out. We have a figure it out mentality. We have, great association. I have a positive mindset. I have a strong faith. I can walk through this. I think if I could go back, I would tell myself it's okay to have that. Well, it's good to have that perspective, but it's okay to admit that that's going to be hard and you're going to need help, and to ask for help. It took me years to ask somebody to help me and to actually let people into my life and to express to them that I was actually hurting and struggling for a very long time. And I would, my husband and I are really close. He knew where I was at. So I was like, that's good enough. Like, he knows, Blake knows what's going on. That's fine. But I never really told anybody else. And not saying to go dump on all of your friends, but so many times I think as women, we just don't want to ask for help because we don't want to put a burden on anyone else or inconvenience anybody. But sometimes you have to. And magically, they usually want to turn around and help you and then use your help in return. And it's in that community that we can get through things even better. And I wish I had done a lot of that sooner, because it took a village to kind of get me to the point where I am now. And I always think, what if I admitted or laid my pride aside and admitted my weakness and that I needed help a little sooner? Where would we be? Would I even be dealing with this? The other thing that I would tell people is, if you're going through a hard season, don't let it affect everybody else around you. And what I mean by that is, my skin has been so affected by this. I haven't worn shorts in years. Last summer was the first time I put on a t-shirt in 5 years. And so I'd go all summer long just like sweating and uncomfortable, but totally wanting to cover up. I have small children. They want to go swimming, and I wouldn't do it with them. And they're really little. I mean, Kinnen's 7 now, but Wes is 2. And one day last summer, towards the beginning of the summer, they were like, will you come swimming with us? And I was like, Mom, you can't, because it actually hurts too. It would hurt me to get into a pool. But one day I was like, gosh, they're only going to be little for so long, and I'm missing all of this. And it's actually mentally hurting me more because I'm sitting here crying inside because I can't be with them. And it's creating this separation between us. It's creating this anxiety and stress between us. They don't know maybe as much, but I was feeling so guilty. And one day I decided I'm going to buy a wetsuit. And I don't care who makes fun of me at the pool, but the water hurts. So I will put on a wetsuit and I will get in the pool with my kids and I will swim with them. And the day that I put that on and got in the pool, oh, it's really cute. It's Roxy. It was adorable. But I was like, people are going to look at me. They're going to think I'm so weird. They're going to be like, why is this girl wearing a full body wetsuit? Does she think we're surfing here? What's going on? But none of that mattered. And I had to really prepare myself mentally to realize somebody may or may not say something. Guess what? Nobody did. Actually, the only comments I ever got all summer was, that's really cute. where did you get it? I need one like that for whatever thing I'm going to. I'm sure they thought in their head that I was weird, but they don't know the story, and it's not their business. My children are my business. And the day that I put on that wetsuit to get in the water with them for the first time, I remember Kinnen looking at me and she was like, "Are you swimming with me today?" Sorry. I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to swim with you." And she's like, "You've never swam with us before." And she was so excited. And we did it every day, all summer. We went to the ocean. And I even had the courage to, as we traveled and we went to different people's pools or whatever, I was like, I don't care what they think. I care that my children are experiencing their summers with their mom. And I actually think that the majority of my healing and reduction of stress came from taking action in face of things like that and putting that stupid wetsuit on just so that I could spend time with them. And all this anxiety and fear and like what ifs and unknowns left the moment I saw how happy she was and how excited she was that I was going to just spend time with her. So there's so many health things that can hold us back or just fears that we have. And a lot of times they are way bigger in our own heads than they actually need to be. And I think in taking action against them like that, you realize what a big deal you might have made something and what you're missing out on if you don't.
Oh, girl. So powerful. I don't have anything to add to that. That was absolutely beautiful. And I think there's no doubt in my mind that it was stylish because you are one of the most incredible stylists, at least as I go. Yeah, please do. And also, I don't know. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and it's becoming more and more the trend here around town. I mean, there's certainly girls out in their bikinis, but more and more people are starting to just be conscious of the sun and skin cancer and all that. And more people are covering up. But I love your point. If it is or if it isn't, it's no one's business, you know? And it's like, we never know what people are going through, whether it's at the pool or at the ocean or at the grocery store. And so just to be reminded to give people grace, give yourself grace. That's something I feel like I've been learning so much lately about the asking for help comment that you made, and just realizing that it's okay to be vulnerable with the right people and to ask for help. And, you know, there's just so much good in there. I encourage you, if you heard that, press pause, rewind about that segment and re-listen to it, because there's so much power in what Chelsea just said. Like, let it sink in and let it speak over yourself as you're listening to this, because that is a mic drop moment that's going to change lives, girl. You're powerful. I love it. Yeah, I don't think we have anything else to add or top to that. That was absolutely beautiful. And we'll link all that good stuff for you guys. There's a chock full of stuff in the show notes today, so please take the time to go look for it. Chelsea, where can people find you again, just as a reminder, if they want to go see your pictures or continue to follow you on your victory story?
Sure. They can find me at Chelsea Kuhn, CHELSEAKUHN, on Instagram. That's where I usually am. And there's a highlight labeled healing. And that is where the psoriasis story is currently. And I'll keep that up to date as things continue to progress. I'm also currently working on an ebook with a friend of mine. We have a Instagram account called Making Lemon Cake. We've done YouTube videos, and we'll be launching a website, putting out a lot of free material soon. And it's more in line with raising children with medical complexities, because she and I both share that same experience. But we're currently working on an ebook that will be released in the next couple of weeks called Joy in the Journey, a guide for parents raising medically complex kids. But there's so much in that book that actually stems from my story in working through psoriasis as well. And it's designed to be a very encouraging and uplifting short read. When I say ebook, it's like 30 pages. So it's easily digestible for people that don't have a lot of time. And so I would say those are the two places where you can find some hope and encouragement. And if you reach out to me, I'm happy to help connect you with some of the professionals that have helped me too.
That sounds great, girl. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm excited to give that a read. And who knows, there may be a three-peat once we get that out and about, that we can have you on for that too. But as much, I love it. Thank you for your time. Thanks for being the incredible woman that you are. And we look forward to connecting again soon. Okay, friend, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Feel free to share this podcast with another friend who it may inspire. Leave a review to possibly be featured at the beginning of another episode, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the stories that could help unlock your dream for you.